Now what happened in your previous life is also influencing you. So that's really kind of nice for the parents, you know, it gives them a brain. What's your own karma that you're an idiot? I didn't make you one. You know, it's really good. Like when Carl Sagan asked the Dalai Lama once, there's a video of him, and he says, you know, Your Holiness, if we made the foolproof, absolute foolproof experiment, and we proved beyond a shadow of a doubt there was no such thing as reincarnation, what would you do? And His Holiness thought for a minute, he says, I'd stop believing in it, he said. He said, I'd give it up, no problem. And the Sagan's like, what? This reincarnation here said he'd give it up? So then beat one, beat two, then His Holiness like rubs his hands together, looks at Carl Sagan and says, now how are we going to go about setting up that experiment? So if you know that in the history of India, at the time the Buddha elaborated this tenfold path of karma kushala pata and akushala karma pata, and of course the legend is that in a previous life he received that teaching from a teacher, so he didn't invent it. But the description is a description where he takes the word karma, which meant prior to Buddhism, a ritual action, karma meant, and it still can mean that in Sanskrit. And the reason that was considered an important action is that you advanced your life by the benevolence of the gods, and you obtained that benevolence by hiring a priest to do a ritual for you that placated and appeased the gods and made them do something for you. So therefore that kind of ritual action came to be known as the powerful action that influenced your destiny. And since Buddha is celebrated for discovering causation as an abstract process of your state has to do with a set of causes and conditions that produce a certain state. Unlike other religion founders, the Buddha's he's not celebrated for having talked to God, although he did. He talked to various gods. He talked to the one that they thought was the creator, Brahma, and actually that God became his disciple. They say in the Buddhist literature, and it could be self-serving, but he did. And that God helped him teach. And actually that God asked him, please teach when you get enlightened, and tell living beings that when horrible things happen to them, it's not my fault, because contrary to their belief, I'm not omnipotent, and therefore I just do my best for them. But we're all mutually creating the world together. Everyone has some responsibility for creating the world. In other words, that's what karma theory also includes, that idea. It's not just one person can be blamed for the whole thing. and Brahma asked Buddha, there's actually text where he asked him, he says, please go teach them and tell them that, it's their karma, it's up to them, and I do my best, And he's very benevolent, Brahma. He's very good. Although there's a kind of Brahma, they say, who later in future life after that becomes a monotheistic fanatic. And there's an amazing analysis of such a person. Buddha says, you see, the story of Brahma is that Brahma is the luckiest being from previous big crunch to big bang. I mean, big bang to big crunch, which there have been endless cycles of that in the Indian cosmology. And so Brahma is the first one who comes from a place where the beings hang out when the universe is in dissolution, a certain sort of heaven plane, energy plane. And then he gets reborn when the world evolves to a certain point. And then he's all alone and he's thinking, what's going on? Where am I? What am I doing here? And then suddenly other ones appear. And when they see him, they say, Dada, because they think he created them. And then he first says, I didn't create you. Well, I don't know what's going on. Cut it out. Then he sees they feel very insecure. So he says, okay, I'm your Dada. Like, take a break. It's okay. And most Brahmas know that. So therefore, they know that they're not quite sure. They didn't really do it. They're part of the stream. You see, a vast part, but part of it. But the occasional Brahma thinks that when they wondered where was everybody, and then people showed up, that was their act of creating them. So they think when they were Brahma, they created the universe. And then Buddha says those people become religious fanatics when they be reborn as human, because they subliminally remember when they were God and thought they created the universe. Which is, I mean, it could be complete nonsense, but it's an amazing way to analyze certain people's behavior. I think it took me like 30 years of reading the same sutra to notice it, actually. That's remarkable. The psychiatrist would have a field day, and the parents would get a break, because now everybody's blamed. Their parents are blamed for ruining everybody when they're infants, and the only effects that how you grow up is what happened to you when you were a child, whereas now what happened in your previous life is also influencing you. So that's really kind of nice for the parents, you know, it gives them a break. What's your own karma that you're an idiot? I didn't make you one. You know, it's really good. So in other words, what I'm saying is that Buddha himself, in terms of what the people could take as a reality view or a science view of the day, in his day, he elaborated the theory of karma. And you know, like it's a relative theory. Like when Carl Sagan asked the Dalai Lama once, there's a video of him, and he says, you know, Your Holiness, if we made the foolproof, absolute foolproof experiment, and we proved beyond shadow of a doubt there was no such thing as reincarnation, what would you do? And His Holiness thought for a minute, he says, I'd stop believing in it, he said. He said, I'd give it up, no problem. And the Sagan's like, what? This reincarnation here said he'd give it up? So then beat one, beat two, then His Holiness like rubs his hands together, looks at Carl Sagan and says, now how are we going to go about setting up that experiment? And of course Sagan is silent, you know, he couldn't figure that one out. Because there is no such thing, you know. And anyway, so it's, in other words, a relative theory. It's ready to be disproved anytime anyone can disprove it.
The one that makes me laugh, he said, and threw his arms around my neck. Show me how you do it, and I promise that I'll run away with you. I'll run